Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. Today we just got an update on the English version, finally with Corvic Knight, Overlord Corvic Knight, etc. And in this video I'm just going to take a quick look on the translated skills over here on the English version, and of course take a look at everything that we got that is new. Keep in mind that if you watched the previous video about the Vietnamese version update, this will not be different. It's pretty much the same thing. I'm gonna start by saying that this update did not bring us any new content to the game, and by that I mean that there's like no new game modes, nothing, no new interactions, but what we got are some icon frames, some Pokemon, and a held item. First of all, let's take a look at the icon frames, aka avatar frames, and if we go down here, we can see that we have two new avatar frames. We have the 6th anniversary avatar frame and also the World Championship avatar frame. Still related to items, another thing that was added was a held item for Corvic Knight. We will take a look at Corvic Knight in a little bit, but basically this held item is for Overlord or Dynamax Corvic Knight, and it will increase the damage reduction of all of your allied Pokemon by 22% and also the damage by 22%. Keep in mind that this description is for a +9 held item. Obviously for a +5 the effects are much lower, but we still don't know what the effect is at the double star held item, so we will have to wait for that. And then we have new Pokemon. Let's start by the New Year Scorbunny. Scorbunny, this is a special Pokemon, which means that it will not have an evolution. It will be something like other Pokemon trainers that we know, like this Tepic. And if we take a look at the abilities, there's no special ability, and also if we take a look at the skills, also does not seem very interesting. This could be a good early game Pokemon for sure, but we already know that it's probably not going to be cheap for an early game Pokemon. And the other Pokemon being added is obviously Rakidi and his respective evolutions, including an Overlord and a Dynamax. I just want to mention that I will most likely be testing this Pokemon on stream this Friday night at 8:30 p.m. London time, so if you want to take a look at me testing this Pokemon in multiple scenarios with multiple teams, just show up. I really love the design of the Dynamax itself, but as we already know, on the English version it's extremely expensive, so it's something that we probably need to forget about. Starting with the base forms, if I remember correctly, you need special items to evolve Rakidi into Corvic Knight, so this is something that we have to expect. And also Corvic Knight without Overlord, and if we go and take a look at the abilities, it actually sounds quite decent. I would say it sounds at the same tier of a normal legendary, something like Tornadoes. I know I selected Tornadoes, but you get the point. It sounds like a normal legendary that could be quite decent, but nothing more than that. It does not have a skills of an Overlord. It doesn't it doesn't sound OP at all. It has an interesting ability 1 and no specific ability 2. The ability 1 is actually quite interesting because you increase the damage by 10% and defenses by 10%, but not only for Corvic Knight, for all of your allied Pokemon. And this effect can actually stack 10 times, which is actually quite interesting. But if we go and take a look at the skills, just the basic Corvic Knight itself, which is not an Overlord, according to the skills, it sounds like a selfish damage dealer, which means that if you want to play this Pokemon, it would be one, if not the main attacker of your team. And one of the main problems of being the main attacker of your team is obviously the typing. It's a flying type, which is not very effective against many Pokemon that we see around here, but at the same time, being a flying type, you can pair it with Tornadoes, which is a very nice buffer. But if we go and take a look at the Overlord actually sounds much more promising. Because if we start with a passive, as we can see, after it releases Brave Bird for the first time, dispels all the debuffs, permanently increases all Pokemon's both attacks, both defenses by 25%, and becoming immune to control and debuffs. This actually sounds very nice, but well, what you have to do first is that you have to release the ultimate, which is the Brave Bird. He also has his own debuff, which is Cut Marks, and increases all allied Pokemon's skill damage by 50%, speed by 25%, up to 3 times. This debuff is permanent and cannot be dispelled. On paper it sounds very nice, but on the Vietnamese version, when I tested it on a live stream, it was not working. So hopefully they fix this so that we can test it out to see if it's actually working or not. And then we have some interesting skills which apply cut marks or apply extra effects if the Pokemon already has cut cut marks, and I feel like it could be very interesting to apply this kind of stuff, especially with the bonding or secret technique, where if you release a Z skill, you can take another move. So there would be situations where you can move twice if needed. And the things that could be interesting are the things, for example, the Z Air Slush. If the target is already marked with the cut marks, well, the Pokemon lose 50% of its max HP. But again, when I tested this on the Vietnamese version, it was not working correctly, so we have to wait and see if it's working over here on our English version or not. But all of the other skills, they sound a little bit selfish in a way that it sounds like this Pokemon is made to be used as an attacker and not as a support. If we go and take a look at the ability 1, it's basically the same ability that we saw on the Corviknight that is not Overlord, which is every time that Corviknight gets attacked, increases the damage and both defenses of all of your Pokemon by 10%. If we go on ability 2, there's nothing special here. If you want to increase your defenses even further, you can do so. Going to the ability 3, there's also nothing interesting going on, nothing special. But if we go into the Dream ability, he also has his own Dream ability, which is Mirror Armor X, reduces the restrain damage, or in other words, reduces the restriction damage or the super effective damage that it takes by 50%, and also reduces the super effective damage taken of all of your allied Pokemon by 20%. Related to the Dynamax Corviknight, every single skill is the same as the Overlord, including the abilities as well. The only thing that changes is, of course, a Dynamax Pokemon is usually much tankier, and not just that, we also have access to a Dynamax skill, which increases both attacks of all of your allied Pokemon by 25% for 2 rounds. I don't want to jump into conclusions just yet, but so far, according to my own experience, I don't see this Pokemon being actually a meta Pokemon myself, even though all the passives and abilities, they sound actually very interesting, but at the same time, it feels like a very selfish Pokemon. It feels like it will shine very much in the early game, but on the late game, probably not so much. This was it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Remember that this Friday I will most likely be testing this Pokemon, so if you want to check it out, just show up 8:30 London time. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys on the next video.